and welcome to RealAg Live, everybody. I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. We got a great show lined up for you. We're talking fitness today, and we want your participation. So all you have to do is enter your comment or question in the comment box, whether you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, or Twitch. Lots of ways to consume the program. And also, if you're ever not on social media, but you still want to tune in, you can go to realagriculture.com/live to watch these live broadcasts as well. We do it every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock Mountain, and we're glad you're here today. Today's guest is Gary Chambers. Let's bring in Gary. Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Shaun?
I'm doing fantastic. So Gary is my co-host for the FitFarmer podcast. Basically, it's me trying to live up to the standard, the benchmark that Gary has set. He farms just outside of Drumheller, Alberta, and I always enjoy our fitness discussions. So, Gary, how did harvest go this year?
Harvest went well. It was a really long, straight stretch. So, I always find those to be a bit of a blessing and a curse because I don't ever find there's any time to fit anything in other than being 100% focused on getting the crop off. There's no damp mornings, which is great. You maximize your downtime. The negative side of it is that you really don't fit in any additional fitness or health or wellness. It's just a scramble from start to finish. And when you're done, you just take a collective sigh.
Well, we've been doing the FitFarmer podcast for a couple of years, and basically Gary's fit, I'm not, but I aspire to be, is kind of how it goes. Gary, it's really been an interesting year here because a lot of people have had like their fitness routine or lack thereof really disrupted. And we've seen like a lot of big time shifts through the COVID-19 pandemic. I actually think it's brought a lot of people sort of into fitness because they've got some new time on their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the pandemic itself obviously has really draw a major focus onto people's health and wellness in general, maintaining a strong, healthy body, but also it has provided them with this free time, especially, you saw it during quarantine. You see it now where people are working from home. So it's giving them a lot larger focus and giving them more time in their day when they can start to incorporate a fitness routine that maybe they always wish they could have fit in, but the commute and everything cut into that time.
Okay, so I think farming is one occupation that, from a day-to-day standpoint, it really hasn't been that disruptive. I think farmers' lives are about to be more disrupted as we enter into the winter time, and I think fitness might be one of those options for them to sort of take up some of the slack things that they weren't doing previously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think typically you'd see a lot, you do in the agriculture industry, see a lot of, the farmers that do take downtime are going south, they're going warmer climates, they're doing golfing and such, which may or may not be happening this year. So they may be substituting what they did in their second homes or places in Phoenix where they did a bit of golfing and such. They may be needing to add in activities from their farm or from their home, which is definitely a change in their routines.
Yeah. We saw a huge spike in the amount of people purchasing fitness equipment for at home. That's been super difficult to get your hands on some of that equipment.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Fortunately, if you had a home gym built before, it's great. But right now, things like dumbbells are in major shortages. I had stopped in Flaman's on the way up to Edmonton just this last week to see what their inventory looked like, just out of curiosity, because they do get queries from people, and they are like nothing. They said, and ultimately, they don't anticipate getting a lot more. There's no free weights. A lot of the fitness and wellness places, in calling around just out of curiosity, are packaging things. So you'll have to buy a rack and a bench and the free weights if you actually want the free weights, which I get. I mean, they're taking advantage of the fact that, people want the free weights and they don't want to just sell them outright. So they're packaging it with other things. Assuming they can even get inventory to do that. And I know out of Calgary, when I called around yesterday, I think out of 5 fitness places, only 1 had dumbbells.
Wow. That's a pretty common thing. That's not a rare item. It's dumbbells.
That is it's the basis of pretty much anyone's home gym is dumbbells and free weights, and then from there you spin off into accessories. So having one of those core basis for your home gym gone is huge.
Yeah, and we've got in Ontario, we got gyms closing again. We're seeing, as we see an
Yes.
increase in cases here in Western Canada, there's a chance that some of these gyms that have just reopened may be closing again. The ability to create your own home gym is going to become more and more difficult here as the winter moves. If you do want to do something, you better get on it fast.
Yeah, and it's also kind of interesting talking to a few of the salesmen in different regions. The one fellow up in Nisku on the Flame in there, he was saying, that some of the machine shops that were doing oil field work have converted over to building power racks and bars and that type of thing, which is very ingenuitive on their part, seeing the demand for these simple items to build relative to what they have been building for oil field, and going into gym equipment and fitness equipment and selling it direct. What a great fit for a lot of these welders and such in these shops that, maybe aren't as busy as they once were.
Yeah. Dorian says, hey, we play Farming Simulator in the winter. Definitely not going to be doing any jogging. Hey, that's fair. So on that note, Lara says, watching on YouTube, exercising in the winter can be tough. I've got a set of cross-country skis. Would love a set of snowshoes. I do a lot of at-home workouts. Gary, how do you stay motivated?
Motivation. I guess it's always a self-driving thing. I think it's one of those things where you actually have to force yourself to create the habit before you start to feel super inspired to do it. And I'm even the same way after harvest. I can find after a long break like harvest, it's really great. It's very easy to find excuses not to get back into a routine. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. It's really the self-motivation comes from creating that habit and realizing how much better you feel after a week of it or after 10 days of it. Then it's very easy to be motivated because all of a sudden you're like, okay, my mental sharpness is there. Physically, I feel better. I'm sleeping better. You start to actually feel those differences. It's those first 7 to 10 days that's hard to create that habit. And then once you're there, then the motivation, is there. And if you're looking, I just noticed yesterday, I was at Bow Cycle looking at equipment. They just brought in a pile of snowshoes. So I was like, wow, there's another, spin-off is that you're seeing some of these other places, fitness and wellness places that were maybe just bikes going into other cross types of fitness, which I think is great, just trying to make sure they're feeding the demand of people's health and wellness.
So if you're having trouble with the individual motivation, okay, like you're just the fact that you feel better isn't enough. Don't you think it's about the sense of community? Like, whether you're going to your local gym and it's the same people there all the time, you use group motivation to kind of help you work out in teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's certainly no reason to not have that just because you live on a farm or acreage. My wife and a few of the other women in the area set up pre-scheduled hike days where they go different places to go hiking. And it's a good chance for them to catch up with one another, but also it kind of sets that motivation of a goal. Each month they go for a hike. I think those type of goals, I've got a circle of friends that I meet up with that, it's motivating to be on social networks that guilt you into working out, things like Strava. So if you're on Strava and you're posting your workouts to Strava, you're also looking on Strava and seeing what your friends are doing. And it's almost a guilt motivation, like, okay, he got out today and did a 60K ride. I need to get my butt up because I'm going to be riding with him next week. And he's, going to be all over me fitness wise if I don't.
That's why I like Peloton. They do a very good job of creating community. And I've connected with numerous people that I've known prior to Peloton just from the ag world. And I created actually a FitFarmer hashtag on Peloton. To try to get more people grouped together, and there's a real I like it. It's a real sense of community, and it kind of forces me to like, okay, people are going to see that I didn't spin today. I got to get on it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's sort of it's the peer pressure. And I think a lot of these fitness apps and fitness networks have learned from the social media networks on how to drip out those so and so just finished a ride. And, it's sort of like when someone's posting a live video on Instagram, it's like so-and-so is just on live. Well, they're doing that same marketing to get people to guilt them into working out. And it's a positive thing, that they're using that.
Here's a question, and this may be out of your expertise, Gary, but I think it's a good point from Brian because I kind of share the same sort of concerns. I mentioned the closing gyms. Brian says, does it really make sense that closing gyms would promote better health? It's the answer to is this the answer to increasing case numbers? I find it counterintuitive. Is there a cleaner, more sanitized space than a gym?
I don't think so right now. I mean, I think the gym owners and the precautions being taken by them, their livelihoods are on the line, and I don't think there is a group more focused on trying to contain and manage the health and wellness of their participants. Obviously, they get a pile of press like this Spinco just now in Hamilton that just came out yesterday that has nearly 70 cases associated to that, and of course that makes for good news. But it also takes away from, the other 100 and some spin studios that are running that didn't have a case, that are helping people stay fit and healthy. I agree with Brian. I think that, it's one of those things that, there is going to be risks involved. You're taking precautions. I'm going back out to Silver Star again to teach super camps in a month, which are cross-country ski camps. We've had to make a pile of modifications to our programs to allow us to run a Nordic program. In Nordic skiing, I mean, come on, we're 6 feet apart, we're wearing buffs, all those things. But again, our group sizes are down to maximum of 4 per instructor. And, we're just trying to use all those precautions while still keeping people out and active. And I don't think anybody is doing more than the fitness industry to try and limit the spread while keeping people's mental and physical health in check.
Okay, so some of the audience may be saying, okay, listen here, that all sounds good going to a local gym, but I live an hour and a half from town. Peloton sounds really, really like a great idea. I don't have the rural broadband, so I need to set something up at home on the farm. We did an episode on this on the FitFarmer podcast, at farm gyms, I think how we called it. Give us some recommendations. What can you do to set up an exercise routine with just some stuff that's around the farm?
Well, I mean, definitely we've got a lot more available options than most people do in setting up home gyms. I mean, it's ironic, but like in my home gym downstairs, I've got what they call sand bells, which are basically a bag filled with sand, that I probably way overpaid for when I could have just taken a bag filled with wheat and done the same thing. But we've got a lot of tools available on the farm, whether it be from tires to heavier chains to heavy tow ropes. I mean, we've got 90% of what they're using in a CrossFit gym sitting in our shops already. So creating our own home gym from cinder blocks or from bars or everybody's got a few pry bars around the farm. You can create these things on your own without much effort. Walking through your shop and picking items, you can pretty much work with it. And, I think it just takes a little bit of creativity if you're not in a position to go buy equipment. It's certainly there.
Yeah. Not too far from my house, the University of Lethbridge track team trains. And they're out there flipping big tires all the time, man. It's just like they took the farm to the track.
Yeah, and I think a lot of CrossFit, the premise of CrossFit, the giant ropes that they swing. I mean, a lot of us have braided ropes for towing tractors out, and we've got the heavy chains, and we've got the awkward items to move. We move awkward items every day on the farm. So it's like, we just need to take that inside or take a corner of your shop. A lot of people have heated shops, even more than garages. We've got the space to put a chin-up bar, the space to, weld a chin-up bar. We've got the tools to create our own gyms. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, Lindsay brings up a really good point here, okay? And I was talking to you before we came on air. I was saying, man, I'm over 40, and I feel like I'm just getting injured and hurting I can't do what I used to. Bench pressing those 100-pound dumbbells just ain't as easy as it used to be. Lindsay says, what about form? How do people keep from injuring themselves without coaching?
It's definitely it's a double-edged sword, not having coaching there to run through your technique. We're in a time, though, where we've never had more technology available. So whether that means taking a bit of time to go to a lighter weight and setting up your camera on your phone from a side angle, from a front angle, recording it, and then you can obviously send that to a health and wellness professional or a trainer and get advice on it, or you can compare it to proper technique videos. YouTube is a great tool if you're getting into it. I know for my son, I set up programs for him. He's endlessly picking up YouTube videos. If he's got a question or I'm not home when he's doing a workout that I've prescribed for him, if he wants to double check it, YouTube has it. Now a lot of the software that's out there has tips on body position and everything right in with the workouts. So there's a lot of options as far as that goes. But it's a great point because, we don't want to be doing a lot of exercise programs and actual exercises that are a higher chance of injury.
Are you still stronger than your teenage son?
I am still stronger than him, but he's definitely catching up to me.
I know those little buggers.
The exuberance of youth is like, holy man, I got to get back in the gym because this kid's going to be beating me down soon. I need to get at it.
Same experience. My oldest is 18, and I'll tell you, I've seen him get massively stronger in the last 6 months, and it's humbling.
Yeah, my son turns 18 in a few months, and definitely, or if I'm a little bit stronger, him now and then he'll rub his 6-pack, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I wish. Dorian says, all my farmer friends are fit. I'm not sure if it's because of ski gym or the fact that they skip meals too often, especially in the planting and harvest time. I think for a lot of people, it's also the reverse. Sitting in the tractor, you're kind of monotonous. You can consume too much food.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. Depending on your personality, I'm a snacker, and I'm really bad that way. So when I'm at home, I'm worse for snacking than just about anybody. And my wife would be the first to attest to that. But when I'm in the tractor, I actually do take bag lunches for lunch and dinner, and my wife packs those. And it keeps me on a very strict, focused intake. So I find seeding and harvest are actually very good for me because I'm a snacker and she's a very healthy lunch packer. So it's a great balance. But if you're one of those people that likes to snack, you just make sure that what you're taking out to the tractor, willpower is good in the morning. So pack both meals in the morning if you're packing your own, because it's very easy to be focused on something super healthy. As the day wanes on, you tend to lose that focus and willpower and tend to be a little less disciplined with your diet.
Yeah, food discipline is a hard one. I find the working out part easy. It's the food discipline. That's
me too.
Abs are made in the kitchen.
Yeah. You can't out-train your diet.
That sucks. I wish it was the reverse.
Yes.
I wish it was the reverse.
There's a certain amount of years where you can, but certainly not at our age. You can't out-train your diet.
Yeah, just watch your teenage kids eat.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of forgiveness when you're 18 to 35 that you can have. But after that, when the metabolism really starts to slow down, you need to focus on both.
Obviously, there's the physical well-being part of all this, but there also is the kind of the mental health, Gary. The fact, when you're active and you're doing stuff, whether that's a walk or a hike or maybe you're into running, there's a lot of different options out there. A lot of it comes down to just, helping with your mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it doesn't have to be these really focused, intense workouts. We have a dog that is an odd farm dog. She is a husky collie mix, and so she should be super active, but she's not. And she actually doesn't really leave the farm much unless we walk her. So you can see us endlessly walking up and down our gravel road or in town or whatever. But I find that the morning walks with her, especially during harvest and during super high stress times of the year, are some of the best workouts because it allows you to clear your mind. You start your day with that extra, 2 or 3 or 5K walk. It's low intensity, but you're still burning the same amount of calories as covering that ground in a jog. And that's what people don't often relate to, is that if I jog that, it would take me less time, but I burn the same calories.
I think a lot of people, including myself, have these great intentions, specifically on like Sunday afternoons. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lay it out. This is the week. This is the week. And I think we set the bar too high. And by Wednesday, we've almost killed ourselves, and we're sore, we're tired, and maybe not being honest with what realistic objectives would be. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, obviously, one of the quotes that I always think of when it comes to that is everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And I think we always make a plan on Sunday, and then Monday hits and it's chaos, and you struggle to keep your head above water throughout the week. And the thing that often drops off is those planned workouts, those planned 45 minutes. And we all know that we waste those 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, whatever you're blocking off. We know we waste those at some point in the day. So, we do need to try and set the highest rate for success as far as, okay, if I'm going to plan this workout, when is it going to happen? And have I blocked it into my schedule? And is it in my calendar blocked off so that I make sure I do it? If it's morning, if it's evening, everybody's a bit different. I have greater adherence when it's in the morning, but there's certain times of the year, during spraying or whatever, that doesn't happen. So, I have to try and work around and block that time. And it's a battle for all of us. It doesn't matter who you are. That's the constant.
I have a friend that gets up at 3:35 every morning, or 3:30 every morning, and works out at 4. That's insane. No thanks.
Yeah.
Too early. Way too early.
It's pretty early. And I mean, I'm an early riser, but during the winter months, I'm probably a little better about doing morning workouts because there's not as much on. During the summer, I don't find it particularly motivating getting going that early because I do want to ride my bike. I don't want to ride the trainer. So, it's blackout. I'm going to try and block off from 3 till 5 is sort of when I try to block in the summer, but that's a really tough time to block off, or 3 till 6 because, right before supper, you still got a lot of things going on in your day. So it's a really hard time of day to carve out a ride or a run.
Okay, good question here from Kara. I do not follow this advice at all. I actually do this every single morning. The question is, can you talk about the importance of not stepping on a scale every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Hugely important, to not be gauging your overall wellness on a scale. I don't step on a scale hardly ever. I do have a Tanita scale that has my body scan on it that does my body fat and my water retention and all of that. But I don't choose to do it. And I think it is important not to base it on the scale because as you're changing your workouts, sometimes you are, maybe adding mass to your workouts, you're adding strength, the muscle weighs more. I still kind of prefer to gauge how I'm progressing a little bit on how my jeans are fitting or how my work clothes
or
are
not
fitting.
Or not fitting.
Or not fitting. Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, do I have to go to that pair of jeans now? I don't know about that.
God, this is, yeah.
So, I think that how you feel is without a doubt, your mental clarity. Are you having times during the day where you're foggy, where you're not feeling 100%, where you're dozing off, and not at the end of the day, but I mean midday? I think mental clarity and your overall health and wellness is your best gauge for how you're actually doing on your program and adherence goes.
I still weigh myself every day.
Do you?
I do. I don't know, but I enjoy the tracking. Like I use MyFitnessPal, and I've been on it long enough where I've got quite the graph. Too much of the graph going like this instead of like this. But and my wife gives me crap about it all the time. But it's just I get fixated on it. Maybe that would help if I didn't do it.
Yeah, I think it does help. There was a long period of time where I did fixate on it, but I can almost tell now. I mean, for several years I weighed myself every morning. But I can almost tell now, probably down to within 2 pounds of what I actually weigh based on how I'm feeling and how my clothes are fitting.
There's nothing worse in this whole thing than being very committed for like 2 weeks, not weighing yourself, then getting onto the scale and being like, I haven't moved a bloody pound. What is going on? I hate that. Okay, question here from Brian. Can you have an effective weight loss strength building plan on 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week, or do you need to do more than that?
No, I think you can. I mean, obviously based on your past history and your current fitness composition, but absolutely 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week. Some of it will include high intensity workouts. So obviously, monitoring your health prior to going into that. But I think a combination of high intensity workouts and then low intensity base building, you can most certainly have some really significant results. And in fact, sometimes I think many of us who are driven by fitness overtrain. And, like you're talking about your Peloton bikes. I mean, you can take some of those 30, 40-minute workouts and get far more effective workouts than you would out of 2 hours slogging along on a bike at a set intensity. So without a doubt, using high intensity mixed in with some good base building is achievable to get significant gains. In fact, I recommend shorter often to people than longer.
Yeah, exactly. And the self-monitoring, really knowing, trying to learn what works for you and what doesn't, and paying attention to that, and trying to prevent injuries and stuff like that. It all kind of goes together.
It does. And, the other thing about sort of when you look at achieving a 3-day-a-week workout or a 4-day-a-week workout is that your adherence increases drastically. If you're trying to commit to 6 days a week and you miss a day, all of a sudden you feel like you failed and it snowballs into 2 days and into 3 days. But if you're on a 3-day program and you miss a day and you jump back on because you got an extra 3 days in the week to make sure you made it up, if you still hit your 3 days, you might be doing better than the guy who tried to program 5 in but fell off the wagon at 2 and never did the rest. So, having 3 days and looking forward to your workouts and being motivated for your workouts and blocking the time, you might have way higher adherence to a 3-day program than you would have if you had picked 5.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it, actually. It's funny how all this is like in your head, right? So much of this is mental, right?
Yes, it is. And it does, and all of us are in the same boat, whether you're a veteran worker, training person, everybody gets out of sync in their life. And, getting back in sync and getting back into a routine is the key, that you just have to try and find some way back, whatever motivates you to get back into it, whether it's less workouts, shorter workouts, higher intensity workouts, whatever it is, you just got to get back in sync.
Yeah. My youngest son and I had this big intention this winter to do some skiing, because he's kind of out of school sports now, and we're going to get passes at Fernie, and they're sold out. They're not selling anymore. So once again, getting back to, if you're thinking about doing some of these activities through the winter months, you might want to get on the planning horse, because a lot of people are thinking the same way.
Yeah, it's big. I know I just had this conversation with a fellow ski instructor, Nordic instructor. And again, Silver Star Resort just released that they're only selling season passes, no day passes. So anybody looking to go out there for a week of skiing, you're probably going to be out of luck. So to adhere to the social distancing and the number of people under the COVID guidelines for many of these provinces, they're having to come up with different ways. And you do want to be looking at the activities you're wanting to do this winter and deciding which one's your priority and making sure you get in on the ability to do it, because the guidelines are changed.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, before we run out of time, Gary, a lot of the audience is trying to get started, get into that routine, whether that's the 3-day a week, 2-day a week, 5, whatever it is, just some sort of routine. What are some tips for them to sort of take home, digest, and implement to kind of get on the horse?
I think one of the main is to write it down, write your intentions down, what you plan to do, what you want to be doing. Tell someone, find someone who's an accountability partner that you can talk it to, whether it's your spouse, your partner, or a training person, that you want, these are your goals, these are what you're set to do, and then make a schedule. And focus on blocking the time off physically, both in your calendar, so it's there guilting you, set an alarm so it happens. And, those 3 sort of accountability issues, I think, are the biggest thing, is that you're not guilted into it if you skip a workout and nobody knew you were supposed to work out anyway. So really find somebody that you can be accountable to, tell them what your goals are, and then schedule it and make it happen.
Great stuff. Everybody, check out the FitFarmer podcast. Gary and I promise We're going to hold each other to this. We're each other's accountability partner on this one. We
Yes.
are going to do more FitFarmer podcasts throughout the winter. We're going to get on a regular schedule. It was great to have Gary as a guest today on RealAg Live. You can go back in the archive at realagriculture.com or on iTunes, and you can find old episodes. I encourage you to do so because all of it is still very, very relevant here in the fall of 2020. So I encourage you to do that. Hey, Gary, it was great chatting with you.
You bet. Thanks, Shaun.
Okay, tomorrow on the show, we are going to be talking to Horace Bonner. That's right. He is the soybean specialist in Ontario. So we're going to be talking all things soybeans, talking about kind of the thinking for next year, variety selection, all those kinds of things. Really looking forward to having Horace Bonner, soybean specialist with Omafra, on the show. Today on RealAg Radio, it is Thursday, which means it's the Farmer Rapid Fire. So we're going to be talking to farmers from across the country and find out what they're doing in their fields and how they're making it out in their barns. We actually are starting this week to ask a special question. So our question of this week is, what keeps you up at night? So we're going to get all the reaction on that. So don't miss that. That is 4:30 Eastern on Rural Radio 147, 230 Mountain. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.